Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to episode number 12 of the Biz Bash podcast. Today, we are talking about Etsy, just a big, long conversation about how we feel about Etsy. Is it good for your business? Is it bad for your business? The pros and cons, the success stories we've seen, and the changes that Etsy is making that affect all of us who are on the platform. So it's going to be a very interesting conversational episode, just kind of keeping it laid back with this one. But before we get started on blabbing about all things Etsy, Elizabeth is going to read a review from one of our fabulous listeners.
All right, guys, we have a lovely iTunes review. Unfortunately, we do not know this person's name. They are just in iTunes as DDA1228. I'm guessing maybe you're Danielle or Desiree or Denise or Diana.
So many options.
Could be many names there could be. I'm assuming
probably
it starts
like
with the D.
Maybe it's just Dan. Maybe it's a guy. We don't know.
Actually, yeah, you're right. We don't know. It could be a guy. They titled the review Honest and Fresh Advice for Growing Your Creative Small Biz. 5 stars. And they said, loving this podcast. As a stationer, calligrapher, or a creative small business owner in another capacity, it's a great podcast for learning and growing your business. Whether learning how to navigate hard choices, difficult clients, or just growing your business in general, these girls help guide the way with their advice and experience. And they do it in such a relaxed and fun way, like you're just chatting with your super fun girlfriends.
Oh.
Actually, guys, we were literally like laughing our head off doing bridesmaids imitations right before we started recording this. So
that's why I feel like we're in a really weird place right now, because we were just being so giggly and now we're trying to be really serious.
Cami really wanted me to like sing the excerpt from Bridesmaids where Kristen Wiig is like super crazy on the plane.
Down to the river. But anyway, I tried, but Elizabeth did it so funny. Oh my gosh.
Here, I'm going to do it. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Oh, wait. So she goes, I'm ready to party with the best of friends. Going down to the river. I
wish you could see my face right now, because I'm absolutely crying right now and I'm so sweaty. I just don't even know.
Oh, that just happened, and
oh my God.
We'll see if I edit that out.
You did the claps. You did the hand claps, and that just did it for me. Like, I literally can't even breathe right now. It took everything in me to not just burst out laughing so I could hear your audio.
There's a colonial woman on the West Wing. There's something they're not telling us.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Right, anyways, you guys are not here for our bridesmaids impressions. You're here to listen to us talk about Etsy. But you guys, this is like how we are in real life, just being crazy, and we can't help it, and we want business to be fun. And honestly, this discussion about Etsy, it might be a little depressing. So I feel like this needs to be fun a bit at the beginning, right?
Oh, see, I actually like Etsy. I don't think it's depressing. I think it's exciting. But I mean, I guess it is depressing a little bit.
Depressing because of like so many changes from what it used to be.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess I just haven't been on Etsy long enough to feel like all the changes. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I've only had it a couple of years and taken it seriously. Oh, I did have an Etsy shop. Backstory. I did actually have an Etsy shop like 7, 8 years ago, and I sold thrifted clothes, vintage clothes.
Oh my gosh, of course.
With all my Goodwill shopping, I would find all kinds of really awesome vintage stuff. So I would sell them on Etsy, and my shop was called Thrifted Kitten. And it was amazing. And then I got rid of it actually after I got a really bad review, because it like really hurt my feelings. And I was like, I can't do this anymore, which is actually really funny considering where I am now with, you know, having a business where you're very open to criticism and reviews. And that one I was just like, shut it down. I can't handle it. But
It was a sensitive time of your life.
It
When
was
you think
sensitive
about
time.
8 years ago,
Yeah.
I mean, you just finished being a teenager, basically. Let's be real. At
Yes.
that point, we can't handle any sort of criticism in our life.
Yeah, I was 8 years ago, I would have been 21. So yeah, it's just a rough time. Woo,
It was
God.
before you could drink. If you were able to have a glass of wine, you would have been fine.
See, you're right. That's all. That was the problem.
Not that being 21 would stop you from having a glass of wine. Let's be
Wait,
real. But
21 is the drinking age.
yeah, I know.
Right?
Like, oh, I'm saying like not that not being 21 would stop you.
Oh,
Some
Elizabeth, how dare you?
lawbreakers,
I
Cammie.
am a very good kid. I actually was a very good kid. It wasn't until I got older that I
I
turned
know
to.
you were.
Anyway, this is already on such a tangent. Okay, back to Etsy. Okay, what am I starting off saying? Shoot.
You were talking. No, it's okay. We're talking about when we started out with Etsy, which is great because you were talking about your first experience with Etsy and why you stopped. So, like, what brought you back?
Oh,
then?
okay. So what brought me back after I got that scathing review from that horrible person is
So funny.
obviously when I started my art business, my creative business, the logical next step for every one of us is, oh, well, I better make an Etsy page. Like, literally, I think that is like ingrained into everyone's next step of starting a business is to make an Etsy shop. Like, and some people stay on Etsy, some people get off Etsy. You know, it's just like a good starting point. So, of course, that's what I did because I didn't have, well, I had my own website, but I didn't have like selling capabilities set up yet. So it was really easy for me to just immediately start selling, which is one of the pros of Etsy is that it is super easy to get started. Like literally
Yes.
you can be up and selling something within an hour, you know, ready to go. And that was, you know, a huge benefit for me starting out was that platform was already in place. I didn't have to figure out anything on the back end for myself. The shipping stuff's all there. It's very straightforward, easy to use. So,
Yeah.
but of course now my strategy is a little bit different. I still have my Etsy shop, but it is not my main place. Like I'm not directing people to my Etsy shop. I think I used to actually direct people to my Etsy shop to purchase stuff, but now I direct them only to my website. That is where I want to drive traffic, not to
Mhm.
Etsy. Because there's a lot of cons when it comes to being solely on Etsy as well. I mean, one of them right off the bat is the brand recognition. People, when they ask you, oh, where did you get this, you know, amazing piece of jewelry? They just say, oh, I got it on Etsy. They don't say, oh, I got it from so-and-so designs, you know? So you're totally losing that identity part of yourself when you're just solely on Etsy.
Right. Because if anyone asks, like, let's say you're selling, oh gosh, here I go again. I'm going to come up with something super weird. Oh,
All
let's
right.
just like a woven wall hanging. Like those are really cute. A lot of people sell them on Etsy and their websites. But if you're selling those and you sell one through Etsy and the person gets it, they put it on the wall in their nursery or their home or whatever, and a friend comes over and they go, oh my gosh, that wall hanging, like the woven art piece, where the heck did you get that? The person is going to say Etsy. They're not going to say such and such designs or such and such art studio, whatever your business name is. Etsy will always have the dominant brand like recognition in that instance.
Yeah, and that really is a disservice to yourself. Yeah. But of course there are a lot of pros to Etsy too. Like when you're starting out, you have a built-in audience on Etsy that is literally ready to buy. Like everyone who goes to Etsy is there to shop. So that's really hard to compete with when you're starting off and you want to have your own website. Now you got to start doing the marketing, getting the traffic there. Whereas Etsy, the traffic is built in for you. Like it's honestly worth it just for that. Like there's been a lot of talk in the Facebook groups I'm in, Etsy Facebook groups. Everyone is complaining about the fees because some of the recent changes, they did increase their fees, their merchant fees from 3.5% to 5%. And that 5% also goes on the shipping charges as well. So it's just 5% of the total order. But everyone's complaining so much about these increase in fees, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm like, honestly, Etsy is doing so much of the legwork for you that tiny increase doesn't bother me. Like, they're bringing in the audience to me. They're doing higher marketing, more marketing things. I don't have to worry about driving traffic at all. So, I mean, if you have your own website, you're going to have to pay for that platform anyway. So I think it all kind of evens out in terms of cost of doing business, but that built-in audience is too good.
I could totally agree with that in terms of fees. You're not looking at the whole picture or the bigger context of the situation if you're not comparing it to how much you are paying or for a website. Because I know for Squarespace, with my commerce and the way I have it synced to ConvertKit, which is my email system and all this stuff, like I'm for sure paying between maybe $500 to $600 a year to have all of that stuff set up and linked and running properly. And Etsy is that platform that's taking care of all the hosting for you. And depending on the amount of sales you're making, that's when you really have to weigh it, right? Because if you're only making a few sales per week or per month, if this is something you're just starting out doing, it's definitely worth paying the fees on Etsy as opposed to paying a lot of money to maybe get Squarespace set up. But I mean, Kaylee and I kind of are the mindset that you should really have both.
Yes,
we think about having both. Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on what your product is, we can talk about this a little further on in the episode. But yeah, at this moment, Etsy's fees are currently about 9% of every sale. So just like something to think about. Like, so all the fees are the Etsy merchant fees plus your listing fee of 20 cents and then your payment processing fee, which is like 3.5% ish. So keeping the idea of 9% of every sale is going to be lost in fees. Like that's going to help you figure out your pricing. Is this actually going to work for you in terms of cost and time and all that jazz? But yeah, just 9% is the number you want to be thinking about when you are setting up your Etsy shop in terms of fees.
And if you want to make the math super easy, I would even just say like round it up to 10 because doing the decimal placement for 10 is so easy. You just move the decimal to the left one place and that's 10% of your sale. So if you're selling something for $10, you're going to be paying $1 in fees approximately. Like that's kind of an easy way to think about it if you want to do some quick math.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. It's super easy to do the 10%. So yeah, think of 10%. Maybe that's your magic number. And then you come out ahead in the long run anyway. So it's like a little mini win for you at the end.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, let's see some more pros of Etsy. There is this instant customer trust because Etsy is this platform that's respected and known. So people, they feel comfortable spending their money there because they know if something goes wrong, Etsy has the customer service and the ability and bandwidth to take care of those kinds of things. Like it's not just they're finding a random website and purchasing something. You know, those sometimes when you find a newer website, you're like, I don't know if it's like trustworthy or not. So having that built-in trust with your customers is also great too. Of course, again, you're still looked at as like a part of a larger company. You're not seen as your own brand, but getting started and getting the word out about your products, this is a great place to start, of course. Let's see, where are some other pros? And then another pro, I think, is that a lot of people go to Etsy first. Like they're thinking, oh, you know what, a really cute greeting card. They're going to go to Etsy first for those types of things. It's just kind of this marketplace that's established itself as a place for handmade artists and makers. So you know, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not being there. That being said,
I was going to say that's a perfect segue to what products work and don't work on Etsy in terms of like people going there first to find something.
Right. Yeah. Well, products. Well, let's talk about some of the cons of Etsy first. I just want to let's get the depressing part. So, of course, some of the cons: lack of control. Like you can't make the website look exactly the way you want. You know, everyone's shop looks the same. So, if that's something that really matters to you, that's kind of a bummer. There's always changes in the algorithm, which can stress you out. You know, you never know if you're going to be on the first page, the last page. Same way with Google. The crazy high competition. We all know the market is super saturated with makers and calligraphers and artists and all that jazz. But we all know there's plenty of room for all of us as well. But Etsy is just like, we're all there, just crowded up together kind of thing. So it can be harder to stand out. And then, of course, the brand confusion, like I talked about. And the biggest one for me is that you don't own anything on Etsy. It could be shut down anytime. Like tomorrow, Etsy could be like, we're closing our doors, and you lose everything, you know? So I always keep that in the back of my head as like a doomsday
that's situation. So true. I would be curious to find out. I'm assuming in the years that they've existed, like maybe they haven't upped their fees at all, which is why they did it recently. Like I'm sure they sent out emails and stuff about all of that. I didn't read it super in depth. Was there anything you kind of picked up on for the reasoning? Like maybe now they probably just like need more to keep the thing running.
Oh yeah, in terms of fees, they made the fees higher because they're trying to do more ad placements like TV ads, commercials, and just up the marketing standard. And they're also trying to like just weed out some buyers or some sellers, I think.
Okay.
And they changed the fee structure because people were like, they would have their product listed for like $1, and then the shipping price would be like $50. So the product was actually $51, but they would put the whole cost into the shipping cost so that they weren't being charged fees on it, because previously they did not charge fees on shipping. Does that make sense?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah. So people would skirt the issue by avoid those fees by just making the cost really in their shipping costs. So So that's why it's now like a flat fee over shipping and the cost of your product.
Right. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're a business too. Like they're running things on the back end. Exactly. They're doing all of this stuff. But I mean, Cami, you're right. Like it could go away at any moment. Like if they decide.
They are hiring more customer service reps, I think was one of the reasons why they're raising the price. I feel like I might have made this up, but I feel like I did read this. So this could be a lie. I don't know, but maybe I dreamed it. Maybe I read it, but I think they were adding like 24/7 customer service just to like elevate that customer experience in terms of people needing help. I don't know. So that was one of the things.
My biggest fear is almost not even them shutting down, but them getting bought out by somebody.
Oh, like Amazon?
Oh, no, Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably going to happen. I mean, Amazon is just like sneaky. They're Amazon handmade. They're just like waiting patiently. And Amazon has the capability to wait patiently and then just devour everything. You know what I mean? Like they're that kind of brand.
Guys, they own Whole Foods now. If anyone didn't know that, Amazon freaking owns Whole Foods. Like, what is up with that?
No, it's crazy. But Etsy, they did shut down Etsy wholesale. I don't know if you, I was on Etsy wholesale. And so that's where I was getting a lot of my wholesale orders and wholesale buyers and making those connections. And they did shut that down. So that no longer exists. So see, this is a very real possibility. And I know a lot of people who literally their business was Etsy wholesale. Like was their bread and butter. And without it, it was just like straight up panic mode to get those buyers info, start like restructuring how they're going to lay out all their products. Like some of these people had like hundreds of greeting cards and now they need to put it into their site with wholesale capabilities and all these things. Like they did give you a heads up, hey, in 30 days or whatever, we're shutting this down. So you had time, but like, honestly, that really sucked for me. I really was counting on that for bringing in wholesale buyers, which now I'm on Faire for that, which is great. It's kind of replaced Etsy wholesale. But yeah, that was a really scary moment for a lot of makers in the industry.
Well, they also had Etsy, that other division where you could sell supplies. What was it called? It was like ribbon and buttons and
like Etsy Maker.
Yes, Etsy Studio. That's totally what it was called, and that lasted for maybe a couple years before they got rid of it.
Oh, yeah. I never was a part of that, so I don't really have any insight on it. But yeah, I guess I can see what that would go with. Right, but that's an
example of they tried something and it didn't work. And so they were like, okay, they got rid of it or changed it. And I mean, I guess theoretically, when you think about this, like my website's on Squarespace, yours is on Shopify, like those businesses could have internal crises too that would cause some sort of shutdown. Like I know Squarespace, oh gosh, it was a month ago or something, maybe last fall, they had a day where Squarespace in its entirety was down. So that means anybody's website hosted on Squarespace was inaccessible for probably a couple hours, which was crazy and caused everybody to panic, obviously. But like it's hard because you don't have a control over these big companies, but you have less control over Etsy, I would say, than you kind of do with your own site.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Etsy really could change. I mean, they are constantly changing. That's kind of one of the things about it is like their search algorithm. They're just like, well, we change it all the time to make it better for our buyers and sellers. And you're just like, okay, like now I started noticing in the algorithm, like I get a lot more buyers who are local to me. So I'm assuming they're taking your location into consideration when showing people, like if someone searched greeting cards or whatever, they like if they were in Orlando, my product would be on the front page because I'm also in Orlando. So they're
Interesting.
trying to make it like location based and make it easier for the buyer. So there is literally all different kinds of factors that go into play. So
Wouldn't that suck though if you're like in the middle of nowhere, Montana? Like, who's gonna see your product if
I
like
don't
no one else
know.
lives out there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess other people would still find it, but they're definitely placing preference on that. So I don't think it's a matter of like how many people are around you, but just like if someone is searching around you, you're going to come up first. So I guess you would
Hmm.
have a higher percentage of getting sales if you are in a place that's more populated. But I
Right,
guess
like
I
me
thought
being in
about that.
Atlanta or anyone being in any sort of city hub would like get preference over someone in a rural area if they were farther away.
Yeah, and it's weird. I don't know if it's because of like the shipping cost, because now they're really pushing for the free shipping, obviously, is a huge thing.
Ugh.
I don't think we've talked about that yet, but
No, we haven't.
Etsy is giving what's it precedence? I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but if
Yeah,
you
it
are,
is.
yeah, you get punished basically if you don't have free shipping. Like people who have free shipping and their listings are going to come up first in search. I mean, they're definitely trying to compete with the Amazon mentality, of course, but people who have very heavy objects and also very light objects, if they do free shipping across their whole site, it's going to look like the pricing is just crazy. Like you have to figure that out in terms of restructuring your whole pricing framework if you're going to offer that free shipping and make sure you can still make a profit. So,
Yeah, that
oh.
honestly that drives me crazy with brands now that they're really panicking. I feel like I've seen this trend, right? That Etsy is like
Mhm.
and Walmart as well are freaking out about Amazon and somehow trying to compete. And that bugs me because I'm thinking to myself, you're already your own brand. Why not speak to the consumer that already loves you instead of trying to cater to a bunch of people who are maybe using something else? Like,
Yeah.
why be something that you're not? That's confusing to me.
Yeah, like focus on
um,
your strengths. Focus on your strengths. And of course, keep making the experience better, but you don't have to like copycat every single thing.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
Etsy's in a weird position because they have to please both the buyer and the seller. So there's like definitely a delicate balance of keeping everyone happy there.
Oh my gosh, it's
You know?
totally like Airbnb. Like you and
Oh
I
yeah.
personally experienced this with booking during hurricane season and
Mhm.
like to be the middleman trying to manage both parties. Like and honestly, it's the same thing that happens to us. Like when we go to a printer for work and we're like, we need you to supply this to us so we can supply it to our client and make them happy and but I want to be happy and you want to be happy. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah, it totally is. Very interesting. Very interesting business model for sure. So oh my gosh. But yeah, so in terms of Etsy, now we're seeing a lot more makers shutting down their Etsy shops. A lot of our friends and peers in the industry who are just saying sayonara to Etsy and just focusing solely on their own brand. And I think it really is because of all the recent changes in the industry on Etsy, just so many different factors at play. Like we were just talking about Jen from the Chatty Press. I was just talking to her on Instagram DMs about, she's getting rid of her Etsy shop, which had like 20,000 sales or something insane, like very successful Etsy shop. And I was asking her why she was leaving. And she said she's been on Etsy since 2009. So she's like OG Etsy person. And as she's seen the changes, it's just not about the community and not a place for creatives to reach people who liked handmade and independent artists. She said it's just not like that anymore. And now she's saying, like, now that the Etsy search is curated by bots and not necessarily handpicked by their staff, she's seeing less and less engagement and a decrease in revenue, which sucks. Like, that just like, I can't even believe that because she's obviously a very successful business. But I think it just comes with like the automation versus curation.
Yeah,
With,
she gave you a very specific number too for how much her sales have decreased. And I thought that was really interesting.
yeah. So she's
Didn't she
basically,
say?
she said 80% since 2016. It's down
Right.
80%, which
And that's huge.
yeah, like, I'm like, is the Etsy era of being successful over, or is there just a whole new way of looking at Etsy? And like I said, I haven't been on Etsy that long to, experience these changes. And when I had that Vintage shop, like I didn't care. It was just like a little, oh, I sold something fun. Like it was just a fun thing. So I wasn't like tracking the numbers, you know. And for me personally, my Etsy has been honestly just about the same. Like I haven't seen growth. It's been about the same, I guess, in terms of revenue. So, you know, I guess we'll see if in a few more years if I can speak to decrease or increase on that. But as of right now, we're just maintaining, which is fine. Like I'm good with that. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, for a while in my business, I did get rid of Etsy. I can't remember at what point this was and what year exactly. I want to say it was kind of during maybe like late 2017 into early 2018, where I was kind of like, I'm not taking orders through here. I'm putting my shop on vacation mode. I didn't delete it or anything like that.
yeah.
But I brought it back when I introduced my wax seal collection, because you were kind of the one that was said to me, hey, if you're going to have it on your website, why not put it on Etsy too? Because that's two spots where you can be reaching people. And I have noticed that if I search like Magnolia wax seal, which is by far my best selling wax seal, it pops up in Google at like the very top via Etsy actually. And then if you scroll down, there's my website too. But Etsy has definitely done me some favors for the wax seal collection. I think I still field more through my website though, especially with this whole free shipping thing, because like, guys, free shipping isn't actually free. Just FYI, like
someone has to pay for it. Like someone's paying for the free shipping
for it. And I worked my shipping prices into my Etsy prices because I was like, I'm not eating this cost. So what I did was upped it the $5 of shipping and then put quote unquote free shipping. So my wax seals look like they cost more on Etsy, but that's because the shipping is built into the price. And that's actually hurt me in a lot of different ways, because a lot of people selling wax seal stamps on Etsy are selling them for between $12 to $18, and mine are $37.50. So that's a huge difference in pricing.
Yeah.
Not to mention that, like, unfortunately now people kind of associate Etsy with being quote unquote cheap and getting a deal. And I guess, Cami, I kind of like wanted to open up the discussion of like, why or how has this happened? Where did this perception come from?
Oh, I know. Etsy, I feel it's totally synonymous with the word bargain. Like, 100%. Like people aren't like, oh, I want something expensive, I'm going to go to Etsy. But there are some beautiful, like very high quality products on Etsy. It's not just like, you know, crappy stuff. Like there is a lot of that too. But I think that honestly, there's just been so much of people ordering stuff from China and putting it on there that all this junk is just like saturating. And so you have to like literally comb through everything to find the good quality gems. Like it's not, there's just so many people who are like, oh, I'll make a quick buck, I'll just throw this crap on Etsy or whatever. And, you know, it's definitely like easier than ever to sell. So why would you not? Like you can be anyone and just sell on Etsy. You don't have to be verified or have your products reviewed. There's no like judging process for those kinds of things. So, I mean, literally you can throw up anything and post it. It's totally fine. But
right. Yeah, like you can take people's photos from their pages and put it up. I mean, this has been a problem before where people are catching their stationery designs, their wax seal designs being sold by other makers on Etsy. And so like copying on that platform is kind of a huge problem as well. I mean, it is.
It is. Yeah, you are opening yourself up to getting imitated if you're on Etsy. Like you're going to be imitated more, it's for sure. But yeah, I think I wrote this in our notes about real estate devaluation. Your amazing product is likely to be surrounded by cheap crap. And so by association, it's probably going to look like cheap crap as well. Not that it looks like it, but just because Etsy has that bargain mentality, you know, I think we think about like DIY brides. People are like, oh, I went to Etsy and got my wedding invitation. So people instantly think cheap, and I'm not sure why. So, which is a good segue for talking about invitations on Etsy, which I do not have my invitations on Etsy. I will never have my invitations on Etsy. I won't have anything custom on Etsy ever, like never, ever in a million trillion years. So
yeah, people are pushy enough on Etsy, I feel, from a customer service standpoint, in terms of sending questions or asking if this and that can be changed for a product, that by putting custom work up there, you're opening a whole entire can of worms. I will say though, I've seen it work on Etsy if people do something like a house portrait or a pet portrait.
Oh yeah,
something very straightforward. I feel like that's custom work that can succeed. But when you're going through design rounds, whether you're doing branding or wedding invitations, why would you put it on Etsy? There's so much back and forth involved in that it really needs to be through your systems and a client management system. And you will elevate your professionalism and your brand to be doing things through your own personal website and not through Etsy.
Yeah, Etsy's messaging system really doesn't have the capabilities to handle those kinds of intense proof revisions back and forth that you would need. So you then theoretically need to take it off Etsy in order to complete that process, which is also, I think, against Etsy's terms and conditions. So if anything happened, you wouldn't be protected by their return policy or any kind of, I don't know, not return policy, but any kind of policies that cover you in terms of payment and stuff like that. So yeah, just not a good look. And then again, there is that association with being a bargain. And is that really the look you want going for if you're trying to have a high-end wedding invitation and sell those custom, very bespoke invitation styles? So not where I would put my invitations for sure.
Yeah, I've seen there's a couple different people who have done semi-custom designs through Etsy before. And even to me, I'm like, that's just its whole own kind of monster. I mean, Cammy and I had a hard enough time dealing maybe a month ago with somebody who was like unhappy with a shirt that they bought from us on Biz Birthday Bash. Much less trying to deal with somebody who's maybe unhappy about designs for invitations. I mean, you don't see wedding photographers selling photography services on Etsy. So
that is such a great point.
Why in the world? Yeah, never in my life have I ever seen a wedding photographer sell their services through Etsy. So why is anybody else who's doing wedding related services putting themselves like on that platform for something that's so custom and personal and high end? And I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I do get inquiries a ton on Etsy being like, hi, do you do wedding invitations? I saw this thing you did, blah, blah, blah. I love your prints. And I send them back to my website and say, here's my wedding questionnaire. Fill this out. 95% of the time, they do not fill it out. I think they look at the price and they're like, what the heck? I thought this was going to be like $20. Oh, and I get a lot of questions about like, oh, I love your city collection prints. Can you do one of this city? And is it going to be $24? And I'm like, yes, I can do one of that city. No, it's not going to be $24, and then never hear from them again. So, like I said, there really is that mentality of everything's going to be like under $50, basically.
Right. So, because when you're buying from an overall brand, right? You're buying off of Etsy. I think there's an assumption by people who aren't creatives and they're not makers when they're shopping that, oh, this is just like pushed out of the Etsy machine. Like they lose the Etsy machine. They lose touch with the fact that there really is a person and a maker behind every single shop. And then it loses value because they expect it to be cheap. Like, I just think it's something that's happened over the past 10 years of Etsy's existence. The longer that it's been around, the more products that are under there, the cheaper that they get. Like, it's kind of this, it's been like a slow moving avalanche. Like, it's
a race to the bottom. Yeah, for sure.
It hasn't happened all at once, but
yeah,
it's
and
just
that's
kind of sliding down.
I don't know about you, but I always get so offended if I introduce myself and I'm like, oh, I'm a watercolor artist. Like, the next question out of that person's mouth is always, oh, so you have an Etsy shop? And I'm just like, I can just like see the rage building up, and I'm like, well, yeah, I do, but I have my own website. Like, okay, I'm legit. Like, I mean, I have an Etsy shop, but I'm not like on Etsy for you know what I mean? Like, I get so offended by that.
I get like that too. And I think that for us as creatives and artists, that should be telling to our overall feel of Etsy as a brand and as a marketplace. Like, I remember the same thing. Like, when I quit my full-time job here in the real estate company I was working for, I'd still go back in and say hi every once in a while. And the lady that used to be my boss, her first question to me was always, how's your Etsy shop? And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
seriously, that's not what I'm doing. Like the Etsy shop is not what I'm doing. I'm like building my own brand and I'm building a legit business that, by the way, I'm making more money doing this than when I did working for you. So like obviously like not saying that to her, but it's like, you're right that like inner rage kind of comes out a little bit when somebody, like the way they say it makes it sound so trivial. And so I guess it really speaks to like how people think of Etsy, like, oh, you have an Etsy shop, how cute.
Oh, how quaint and adorable. Do your little arts and crafts all day. Okay.
Yeah.
I have like a serious problem with that. But yeah, I still have my Etsy shop, but here's my plan with Etsy. Etsy to me is a micro influencer. It's just another arm of my business. It's almost like a search engine to getting people to my website.
Yes.
Like I just think of it as like it's doing the marketing for me. People buy a product from me on there. And I wrap it up and my packaging has my website on it. It has the space to leave me a review on Etsy. It has where you can follow me on social media. I ask them to post a picture of their product and tag me. And then they find me, they follow me. And then we start the whole process of falling in love with my business and the rest of my products. And so it really is just like a little outreach and marketing effort, you know, and the extra money it brings in is, in my mind, is passive income, even though I'm still doing work on the back end of packaging it up and whatnot. But I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket in terms of Etsy. Like I think I could optimize my Etsy shop a lot more in terms of organization and tags and just doing more, even though I do a lot already. But that's not where my focus is. My focus is on my website. So this is just my little marketer doing its own work for me is how I think of it. So
right. And you do a good job, Kimmy, at trying to at least carry your brand on through Etsy by putting stickers on your packaging, and the back of your cards have Cami Monet on them. Like you really try to push that through, even though you're selling through Etsy, like putting a little thank you card insert and things like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and I do get, like I have a special discount code sometimes I'll include with Etsy orders so I can see if they come back and order on my website, which a lot of the times they do. Which is great, you know, so I see the progress with it, which is why I'll probably always keep it up because why not? Like at this point, you know, maybe if I turn into a brand as big as Rifle Paper Co., where I'm just so well known that, you know, everyone's coming to my website, that would be great. Then I would probably get rid of Etsy because it is just like watering down the brand and I don't need that platform anymore. But for now, it's a great way to keep building my exposure, building my identity as a brand. So
yeah,
even though that sounds contradictory to what I said about not having brand identity on Etsy, but y'all know what I'm saying, okay?
Like we're talking about their strengths and weaknesses to both Etsy as well as having your own website. I was thinking too that another creative, really highly respected in the wedding industry for her semi-custom invitation line, Empress Stationery, Jessica, she actually just moved away from Etsy too. And I loved her reasoning on her stories. I listened to all of them. I was like very interested to hear what she had to say. And she said the bottom line is we couldn't serve our customers as well through Etsy as we can through our own website with our own systems and our own, you know, for our services. And I was like, that's such a great way to think of that, is that you're removing yourself from that sphere just because you want to serve your clients better in another way. And it's semi-custom for wedding invitations. That's a really big thing. There's still a lot of changes and things that come with having something like that. So I love that perspective on it. But also super interesting, you know, that Jen from Chatty Press, when she does mostly products, and some of them are semi-custom, that she's kind of taking a step back from that too. And maybe it's really just to give more energy and focus to their websites, because we all know as a person who wears so many hats in our businesses that it's hard enough to like keep your attention in one place, much less, you know, trying to combat with operating like two platforms.
Yeah, exactly. It is a lot. Like I actually am operating 3 platforms when it comes to selling products: my website, Etsy, and Faire for wholesale. And I'm just like losing my mind on all those right now.
Don't forget that it's also doubled because you're managing Biz Birthday Bash, like some of the products and the Etsy for that too. So like, and obviously that's not generating the same that your Etsy stuff does for Cami Monet and your website.
Yeah, but oh my goodness. Yeah, it is a lot. Like even in before I launched my Christmas collection, I outsourced. Remember, I hired that VA to help me get all my products uploaded because I was just like, I can't do all this in time.
Yes, I love that you brought that up. I was actually thinking of bringing that up as well because we're going to be talking about what happens when you do outsource and hire out certain tasks and when you need to do that in a later episode, probably like the next round of recording, hopefully. So we'll be talking about that a lot more.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that and explain more. But yeah, another thinking about Etsy is like, I think about my website is like the flagship store for my brand. Like that is like the main hub. Like that is where people come. And then Etsy is kind of just like the other store that's in a town that no one really cares about, you know?
Okay,
like,
so
but it's there. It's just another storefront for me.
Just to clarify, you do not have Etsy linked anywhere on your website, right?
No, I do not.
Okay. And I don't either. However, I know for some people who aren't ready to pay for the commerce plan for Squarespace, they have done that, like have their Squarespace website and then linked to an Etsy, which I think if you have only an Etsy, that's a great way to do it. But once you have both of them, I kind of am of the point of view, like what Cami and I are doing. If people are on your website, don't give them the chance to move away from your website. Keep them there.
Don't send them to another place where your competition, you're competing with all different brands selling the same stuff. Then they're going to be like, oh, look at this shiny thing. Because also Etsy, when you click on a product listing, it shows you like other products from other brands too underneath it. I'm pretty sure they might have taken away that feature.
Actually, no,
but they used to do that.
Does. I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah. So that's not good. Yeah. I pretty much hide any... I'm just going to tell people I don't have an Etsy from here on out. I'm going to be like, no, actually, I have my own website and I'm an international company. I can say that. I've sold stuff internationally. So I'm just
actually,
say that.
I think that's a great plan. I think you're right. When people ask if you have an Etsy, you say, no, I have a website and I'm legit. And so not that having an Etsy means you're unlegit.
Right.
But it's
like if you're trying to...
Sorry. I'm just thinking,
if you're trying,
Rod now, I'm too legit to quit, but now I'm unlegit and I must quit.
This is like the movie quote episode and I love it.
Sorry, continue.
Anyway, I don't even know where I was going with this, but yeah, I just want to direct people to my website. I don't want them to even get an inkling that they need to go look for me on Etsy. And remember how I thought it was your sister buying something and it wasn't, because I was like, I saw that they had the abandoned checkout. Like they left the mug in the cart on my website and then they went and bought it on my Etsy.
Yes.
And I literally, this is another thing that keeps me up at night. I'm like, why would they do that? Like, I cannot think of a reason why they would leave the checkout. Like, I'm like, is my site not trustworthy? Like, why? And then they went and found me on Etsy. And that takes some digging because I'm not, like, my name's kind of hard to find on there. And I don't have a link anywhere at all. So I'm just, oh my gosh.
This still is the thing that haunts you at night. And I think you need to email them to see if they even remember to be like, hey, this might sound super creepy, but I did notice that you left my website and went to Etsy. I'm wondering if they maybe, since they already had an Etsy account, if it makes it super easy to check out just a tiny bit quicker.
Maybe they had like credit on Etsy. Like, I don't know. Do you get credit? Like
I think there are Etsy gift cards. Yeah. And I think you can use them with any shop.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened. I mean, that makes sense in my head. So I don't know.
It's weird though that they were on your site and then ended up going out of their way to get to Etsy. Oh, wait. Maybe it was because, do you have free shipping on Etsy?
No.
Oh, well, I don't know then.
That was a good thought. But no, I don't have free shipping on anything on Etsy because I honestly, the thought of having to go in and change on my prices sounds horrible. I just don't want to deal with it.
I think I'm going to change mine back. I'm just like, okay, I did it for the holiday season. I tried it. I don't see any change in my sales. But you actually mentioned here that seeing that you see an increase in sales the faster you ship things.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's so weird. Like, so I try not to leave orders sitting in my order queue or whatever very long because I notice like Etsy definitely gives precedence to people who ship stuff faster. So like sometimes I will ship something or at least print the label like within like 3 minutes of that person ordering it, because the faster I get it out, like I swear I get an order like almost like within 10 minutes of me shipping that product out. of me
Wow.
printing off the label and saying it's shipped. It literally is super freaky, and like I like pay attention to it now too, because I've like noticed it happening. So now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ship off these labels, everything's empty, and then and then the order rolls in. I'm like, what the heck? So I do see that, like, the faster you ship stuff out, the faster you get orders. Maybe it's just with my brand, but I really think it's like part of the Etsy algorithm. Like, I don't think they've said that anywhere, but
No, I think
just
you're
from
right,
experience.
because your inkling earlier was like they're trying to compete with Amazon with this whole free shipping thing. Like, of course, because like Prime is 2 days, right? So of course they're going to reward people on Etsy if they're shipping things faster, which frankly, I'll put it out there, for me is very frustrating, because for my wax seal stamps, I have to wait for the company that I collaborate with. And I've talked about Get Mark Co. in past episodes, and I really like working with them, but I have to wait for them to give me a tracking number before I can add that to the listing. So it's completely out of my control, how fast things ship. And I think your inkling on that is right, because it's been taking a little longer recently to get the tracking number and to upload it. Or sometimes I forget because I have to pull it from a spreadsheet. And Etsy, I feel like, has been the elephant graveyard for me lately, because I just am not seeing orders come through on that. I don't know. It's tough.
I mean, that's the same with my mugs. My mugs and my tea towels are drop shipped, so it does take a little longer because they're made like individually. So it does take a little longer. But I do have. I don't think if you have this or not, because we don't have it on Biz Birthday Bash, where I have like an in progress thing where I can mark it, the order is in progress, so then it moves out of the order queue and into like another little tab.
Oh, interesting. Would that help?
I don't know. I don't even know if, like, remember we didn't have it on Biz Birthday Bash, and you were like, maybe it's after so many orders or whatever. So I don't know if you have that or not, but go look and see, because I always mark them as in progress. So I do feel like it helps a little. I mean, it's got to help something, like,
if you're
than just being sitting there.
If you're seeing a sale that's like popping through 10 minutes after you've shipped something else out, like, there has to be something to that. That's like too freaky.
I know. And it's almost like literally like a 95% success, like, chance that it's going to happen. Like, I just notice it so often. So I'm like, oh, should mark this shipped? And I'm like, just wait, counting down the minutes to see. Oh, there it is. Okay, perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I know. And it was so funny, as I was talking to Jen last night about like complaining about Etsy and, you know, why she's leaving. I literally got like 3 orders as I was talking to her. And I was like, well, I don't know what to say about Etsy. You love it and you hate it. You know, it's one of those things.
Right. Well, it makes sense that they would be rewarding people who ship faster, because then those customers come back to Etsy again. So it's all this like big circle of life for them, of if the customer who's ordering is happy and there's certain shops making the customer happy, maybe keep rewarding those shops. So
yeah, exactly. It can't hurt. That's for dang sure. So,
which makes it really hard for anyone doing anything semi-custom, guys, or custom. So just think about that.
Yeah. Just think about that. And also, I feel like the Etsy client tends to be a little crazy. So just watch out for that if you are doing invitations on there, which we don't recommend. So
I get a lot of messages through Etsy, and I've never gotten one through my website before. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I get people on Etsy a lot who will message me asking things about my wax seal stamps and specifications and stuff, and that's fine. And then they'll mostly ask me, and do you sell wax seal sticks for glue guns? And I'm like, well, no, because that's not in my shop. So like, it's just funny to me that, like, to ask something that seems so obvious, of like, if it's not in my shop, why would I be selling it? You know, like,
oh my gosh. I get those questions
all the time.
I get those questions too. One day, like, they're like, oh, do you actually have this design on a wine glass? And I'm like, that you cracked the secret code since you asked. I actually have this one very single, very special wine glass just for you. It's not in my shop, but since you asked, I have it. I just don't want to be sarcastic like that, but I'm like, no, if it's not here, I do not have it. Like, if I was selling it, I would put it out for you to see. Like, I don't understand that. And then, oh my gosh, someone else asked me. Now this is just turning into me complaining about emails, but they're so funny. I get the funniest ones. This person asked me if they wanted to order like 6 prints, but they were like, oh, so do I need to just check out individually and then you refund the shipping for each one, or is it easier for you to just make a custom order for all 6 prints? I was like, or you could just add all 6 to your cart and check out like any normal shopping. You don't have to like individually. She's like thinking she had to like individually check out for each one. I'm like, you can just buy them all at once. And she did. I was like, yay, I'm so glad you figured out an online shop. Like, I don't know.
That was on your Etsy shop specifically?
Yes, and I was just like very confused by the question. I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, maybe it could have been like somebody's grandma or something who was trying to get some nice gifts for her grandkids.
She was young.
Well,
but maybe she hadn't used Etsy. Maybe she was just confused on like how Etsy's checkout process works. I don't know, but anyway, fun times on Etsy. Fun times. So
I know. I feel like I'm looking at the notes here, and I feel like we've covered most everything that we had hoped to talk about on this topic.
Yeah, this was just kind of a big, broad discussion on Etsy and how we use it in our biz and how we don't use it in our biz, and things to think about as you move forward with your handmade business. So,
and I hope that you guys appreciate the title of this episode, because I think it's really funny.
This whole episode is amazing, by the way. I can't wait to go back.
Let's talk about Etsy, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
And that's all we have for karaoke with Elizabeth today.
So much karaoke with Elizabeth. Before we say goodbye to you guys, just remember that if you're enjoying the podcast, it really helps us out if you leave a rating and a review on iTunes. And if you have any questions about anything that we've been talking about today, we do answer questions on our Q and Cake episodes. Those happen every 5 weeks. And you can leave us a question at bizbirthdaybash.com/Q and cake, the letter Q, the word and, the word cake. Pretty straightforward. So you can find us there, obviously at bizbirthdaybash.com. And Cami and I recently just launched an awesome new membership thing on our website, and I'm going to let Cami talk about that for a minute and then we'll wrap up.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you guys, we just launched the A to Z directory. So membership is open now. So the A to Z directory is our comprehensive guide for vendors, printers, manufacturers, everything you need to kickstart your business, to find printing stuff for invitations, making mugs, all that good stuff. We want you to search less and create more with your business. So this membership gets you access. It's $147 to get access. That's a yearly membership. And then, of course, you also get access to our private Facebook group where you can talk to the community and ask us questions about the types of vendors we use, reviews on different vendors, help with finding the right one, because it is a huge list. And we'll be there to support you and help you grow your creative business. So yeah, I think that is it for today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.
Oh, we almost forgot. If you guys want to join the membership, make sure you visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, if you haven't figured out already, Cami and I are kind of goofballs and can't really help ourselves, so we've decided to include some bloopers in this episode. So here you go.
Okay, I'm going to add something in real quick.
Oh, sorry.
If you want to sign up for the directory, visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory.
Yes, and that is all we have for you. Thank you.
I just wanted to be able to copy. I want to be able to edit that back in. But then I was like, you did so great with the ending, so I felt so bad because I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm smacking my hand on the table and it's gonna mess the mic up. But
so that's okay. I know. I feel like I nailed the ending, but I forgot the link. But yeah, you can just add that back in and
snap mine back in. So go ahead. You can just say something.
Oh, just do it. Just say right now, because after I say, I think that's it for today, you guys, and be like, oh yeah, and the link for that is, and then just end it.
Oh, are we gonna say?
Could you edit that way? Yeah.
Bye.
Oh no, that's all I would say. Like how I just said, all about the directory, and then I said, what did I say?
I need to do the bloopers for this episode, I think.
Oh my gosh, I know this would be really good. And then I said something about, I think that's all for today, and we'll see you next week. And then you just cut it back in and say, oh, we almost forgot to give you guys the link for the directory. It's Bizbird, and then you say bye. Do you see what I'm saying? No. No, you have to say about the link to the directory.
Oh, and then say bye. Okay. So you want me to say it again?
Yes. I don't know. You're the one editing it. You figure out what we need.
I've got this.
Okay.